Here's an example of a translation. So where we're going to slide our first figure in blue here to our in prime notation, our red figure. Remember, prime means the new one. So for point A, we move it 4 units to the left and 1 unit up. If you can just count with your fingers when you have it graphed that way. That would be -4, 1 if we turn that to a vector. So that's 4 to the left, we'd subtract, and then we'd add 1 to go up. So that gives you your rule for this translation. What you can do is apply that rule. Let's take a look at that. So to use that rule, you're going to start with your point. Here's point C. You can find it at 4, 1. So that's 4 units to the right and 1 unit up. And then if we apply our rule here, we're going to subtract 4 from our x value and then add 1 to our y value. So that gives us 0 for x and 2 for y. And that is what we would call C prime, the new C. Remember that prime sign means the new one. So we can find our point here. There's C prime at 0. And then I'm going to count up 2. Perfect. So I can keep applying that rule to my other points. I have point B here at 7, 1 as my coordinate. So I'm going to subtract 4 from that x value and add 1 to that y value to get my new point as 3, 2. So B prime, 3 up over 2 up. That's B prime. I'm going to do that for A. So I find it's 4 over and then 3 up. I'm going to subtract 4 from x, add 1 to my y. My new point is going to be 0, 4. So my original points of my pre-image are in blue, and my new points of my image are in red. Well, let's look at a different example. So we were just playing around with translations where we were sliding an image around or a shape around. Now we're going to play around with reflections where we're going to flip an image. When we flip an image, we flip it over what's called the line of reflection. And so we're going to do this twice. We have 2 different lines of reflection given to us. So we're going to take these points up here, we're going to graph them, and then flip them over these lines down here. X equals 3 will be one of them, y equals 1 will be the other. And I'll show you how to do that. You're going to start, anytime you're doing a reflection, you're going to have to start with the shape. So we're going to go ahead and draw that shape. Here's the points that we were given. If we plot them, they're going to make a triangle. Then we're going to draw our line of reflection. X equals 3 for this example. That's the line in green. Again, that's the line of reflection. And so to do a reflection, you are going to start with your point, and I'm going to count how far is that point from my line. For point A, I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to count, oh, that's 2 units from my line of reflection. So to find A prime, the new A, I'm going to just count 2 units in the other direction, and then I'm going to plot that point. Same for B, that's also 2 units, except notice how I'm flipping over the other side, because you're mirroring these, okay? Reflection is like a mirror. So B prime is going to end up over there. C is only 1 unit from my line of reflection, so I'm only going to count 1 unit on the opposite side of the line. And then, ta-da! I have my prime figure, my new figure here. And notice how it's flipped. It's like a mirror. If you ever play around with photo editing software or your phone maybe, you can mirror an image pretty easily just by pressing a button. So here is the same thing. We're going to plot the same exact points. Okay? So that's the same shape, but notice how we have a different line of reflection. In this case it's y equals 1. But the process is going to be the same. We're going to count how many units are we from our line, and then flip it over and go the opposite direction for our new point. So A prime is going down there. B is only 1 unit from our line, so we go on our opposite side. And B prime is going to go right there. C is right on the point, so we actually aren't going to move it anywhere, because if you're touching the line of reflection, you're just going to stay put. And so there, maybe that's easier to see that that's a reflection. It's flipped over the line that we were given. So again, when you have a reflection, you plot your points, you draw your line, and then you're just going to count the spaces to find your new figure and where you should plot that. So this last example we're going to look at is about rotations. These are a little different because a rotation is going to depend on how far you're rotating it. That's the rule is going to depend all on that. So you do have a copy of these rules in your transformation notes. For this problem, we're going to use our rule for a rotation of 270 degrees. That is on our problem here. So our rule is going to be that the a, b, x coordinates are going to change to b, negative a. So for this first point r, 3, 1 is going to become 1, negative 3. So the x and y coordinates flip places, and then the x becomes negative. So in your second point, it's in the y value is going to be negative. So it might be helpful to see a quick little illustration once we have all of our points here. So we're going to take this last point, u, and we're going to make it u prime by applying this rule here, okay? So my a, or x coordinate, is going to flip over here, okay? See how the 2 has moved, and I added my negative sign because I'm following that rule, okay? Just like right here. And then my negative 1, which is my y value, or my b in our rule, is just going to come right over here to this position and become my x coordinate. So that is how a rotation rule works. You're just going to follow the rule to change your points. It's always going to be helpful to have those in front of you. And this is our new point, u prime. Okay? So look, see it's negative 1, negative 2. Our next step in this problem is going to be to graph this figure. Okay? So we're going to plug our points in. It's going to be what we call a quadrilateral. Quadrilateral has 4 sides. It's kind of a regular shape here. And then we're going to rotate it. So our new point, r prime is going to be here, s prime is going to be here. We're just graphing them, okay? And it's going to be really hard to see the rotation that's happened, but I'm going to show you something else. So here's from point T, I'm going to cross one line for 90 degrees. Then I'm going to come up here, I'm going to cross the y-axis, that's going to give me 180, and then I'm going to cross the third line for 270 degrees, essentially. Remember, a circle's 360, so to go 270 degrees, you got to come all the way over here. Then if I did that for each point, that would be my rotation. But remember, if you follow your rule, it's going to be really easy to find those points.